Are you ready? Hey guys, I've got a special video for you today. I've got a camera which is a cross between a Leica 3 camera and a Leica M camera. It is the Canon L3. I'm sure most of you are going, what is one of those? In this video I'll tell you all you need to know about the Canon L3 camera. I'll give you the differences between Leica 3 cameras and Leica M cameras. Yeah, let's jump straight in. Hey guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. So yes, today we're looking at the special camera which is the Canon L3. This is a camera that I've had since lockdown and I've just never had time to get around to making a video. I've still got film in the camera, but I thought I can't wait any longer. Let's tell you guys about this amazing camera because I did promise during my videos over Christmas that in the new year I would review some cameras which are a bit more affordable. This is definitely more affordable, and I checked the prices on eBay before this video and my mind was blown at how cheap these are, so I'm almost tempted to get a spare one for myself. So I know a lot of you are Leica shooters, so let's put some Leicas into the mix. The Leica M3 cameras were released in 1954. The last of the Leica 3 cameras was actually released after. This is the Leica 3G. This was released in 1956. And then in 1957, the Japanese company Canon, as you all know today for their SLR cameras, DSLR cameras, mirrorless cameras, released the Canon L3. Now the Canon L3 came after the Canon VT, if any of you are Canon rangefinder fans. So the Canon VT, as I understand it, was like the flagship, the best one. Then they released the Canon L1, which was like an economy version of the VT. Then they released the Canon L3, which is an economy version of the L1. So this was 50% cheaper than the L1 at the time of release. And the main features that it's lacking compared to the more pro model is it's only got a maximum shutter speed of 500ths of a second compared to the L1 and VT, which are 1,000th of a second, and it's got no flash synchronization. In terms of the lineup of Canon cameras which you may have heard of, let's say this was 1957. The Canon P was then released in 1959, followed by the Canon Model 7 in 1961. So what can I tell you about these cameras other than they are amazing, and I should have told you sooner. So these cameras share some features from a Leica 3 camera, some features from a Leica M camera, and some features that are better than both. Dare I say it, and you know I'm a massive Leica fanboy. The first feature which you might notice from the front of the camera, this is a Leica screw mount camera, the same as Leica 3 cameras. So you can't fit any M-mount glass onto this camera. As you probably guessed, this is a rangefinder camera, as you can tell by the windows on the front, and it has a similar cloth shutter, the same as, say, M cameras and Leica cameras. I will fire off one shot to waste so you can hear the sound of the shutter, because there is film loaded, so I can't open the back. Are you ready? It does sound actually really, really clean and really sharp. Crisp, should I say. Here's an M3 for comparison. Just checking there's no film in it. The film advanced sounds better on this. It's obviously very nice. I'm a massive M3 fan, but this does sound very, very good. So number one, sounds good, feels good, really nicely made. These cameras are built from the era when cameras were built properly, so everything's just really nicely put together. And I'm not dissing Soviet cameras. I will do some reviews on Soviet cameras. Soviet cameras are great, but this feels a lot more refined than Soviet cameras and maybe more Leica-like than, say, some of the cheaper offerings you got, such as the Feds, the Zorkis and the Kievs, for example. Although they are great cameras and I do use those too. If we look now on the top of the camera, you've got a film advance lever, the same as on an M3 or M cameras. And that is faster, some may say, and maybe more modern than the film advance knob of Leica 3 cameras. The viewfinder has parallax correction, again the same as M cameras, so this is one advantage over all Leica 3 cameras except the 3G, because the 3G here also has parallax correction. It's the only one with parallax correction. The viewfinder size is probably similar to the Leica 3G, so it's smaller than an M finder, but it's much, much bigger than all the other Leica 3 small finder cameras. So a good size finder, definitely very usable. Again, when we're looking on the top of the camera, you've got a film rewind knob, but unlike an M camera, it's actually hidden. There you go. So it's a very sleek design, and when it's not in use, you just push it down and pop it up, press that, On the front right hand side of the camera you have a manual frame selector switch, which means it's not automated, the same as on an M camera. So it is more similar to like a 3 camera, where you have to manually remember to set your film counter to 0 when you load your film. I often forget, so this catches me out. Now, correct me in the comments, but I believe this counts backwards. I've had film in this camera for so long, I can't remember if it's counting up or counting down, but I think it starts at, say, 36 and then counts down 35, 34, 33, instead of starting at 0 and going 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct me below, but yeah, when it comes to film loading, these are faster to load than Leica 3 cameras and Leica M cameras. They're very similar to, say, Leica Bessa cameras. Did I say Leica Bessa? They're very similar to Voigtlander Bessa cameras. So by that I mean they're like an SLR style back door. So the door just opens, you pop the catch on the end of the camera, and then that'll open up the back door. So really easy to load film. And just going back to the top of the camera, your shutter settings again are more similar to Leica 3 cameras, and I'll explain. So you've got ball mode through to a maximum of 5/100th of a second on the top of the camera, and then you have orange. I'll bring up a bigger picture. In orange it says 30th of a second. Then if you notice on the front of the camera, you've got the slow shutter speed selector switch, the same as on like a 3 camera. So this means when you use speeds less than 30th of a second, you need to set them on here, and you've got half a second, quarter, eighth, 15th and a 30th. So if you want less than 30th, make sure you need to set it on the front of the camera. Same as like a 3 camera. And in terms of weight, the weight of the Canon L3 is 530 grams, which is 18.7 ounces. Lighter than an M camera. The M3, for example, weighs 580 grams, which is slightly heavy for an M camera, but it's lighter than something like the Nikon S2, which I think is 595 grams. See that video just to be 100%. The camera has strap lugs. Some of the early Leica 3 cameras don't have strap lugs, and some of the Leica clone cameras don't have strap lugs. The lock on the base is when you're opening the back door. You need to turn this before you can pop the back, so it's like an extra lock feature, and obviously a tripod socket. And now onto the special features. On Canon cameras, actually it seems to be missing on this one. There's normally a pin on the accessory shoe or cold shoe. This is not a hot shoe. When you attach a Canon branded viewfinder, the pin will automatically parallax correct the auxiliary or external viewfinder, which is a really, really clever design, and it's the only brand I know that does it where the camera talks to the viewfinder. If you put a Voigtlander viewfinder on top of an M3, if you're shooting, say, 35mm, you will have parallax correction issues because the accessory viewfinders don't have parallax correction. So Canon had a much better design, but it gets even better than that. I think the biggest special feature of the Canon L3 camera is, if you notice when I've been showing you the camera, it's got 3 different rangefinder options or frame line options. It's got 35mm, 50mm and RF for rangefinder. So when you look to the viewfinder, you've got a little dial on the back. You turn the dial on the back and it turns the arrow in this little dial from 50 to 35 to rangefinder. When you have it in rangefinder mode, it's a little bit like looking through like a 3 camera. So I think the magnification of the rangefinder setting is similar to the magnification of like a 3 camera, meaning it's very easy to critical focus. You move it to 50mm, and the 50mm magnification it's less than an M3, but an M3 is obviously the best of the best for Leica cameras. So it might be similar to, say, a M6, for example, in terms of magnification. I will do a full video on this to follow, comparing the different cameras. And then you've got 35mm, which is less magnified. So basically, if you're using, say, a 90mm or 135mm lens, in Canon terms, Canon made 100mm screw mount lenses, so you'd have a 100mm viewfinder, and then you'd use the rangefinder setting, and that's going to give you a more accurate focusing system than a brand new Leica M6. If you want to shoot standard 50mm lenses, you just leave it on the 50mm setting. And then the feature that sets this camera apart from all Leica 3 cameras, this camera has the 35mm frame line, which means you can use 35mm lenses on a Leica screw mount camera. So if you know anything about Leica screw mount cameras, I have done a lot of videos on these cameras now. Check out the blog if you want to see example photos. The biggest problem with these cameras, if you love your 35mm focal length, is these cameras only offer you 50mm, or the exception of the Leica 3G offers you 50mm and 90mm. That means you'd have to use a 35mm finder on the top of your camera if you only shoot with a 35mm screw mount lens. This camera is your best bet if you want to shoot with a 35mm focal length lens and you're happy to use a screw mount lens. Common examples of lenses you could use the Canon 35mm LTM lenses. There's a 35 1.8, I've done a video, 35 f2, 35 2.8. You've got the Color Scope R screw mount lens, that's f2.5, that gives you a more modern look. You've got the Jupiter 12 35 2.8, again I've done a video. And then you've got the Voigtlander Ultron 35 1.7 vintage version, the LTM version. So what's that? That's about 5 or 6 35mm lens options, all screw mount. If you want to get this camera, the cheapest of those would be the Jupiter 12, great lens. See the video, lots of character. Okay, to summarize, let's break this down into the basic pros and cons. Pros of the Canon L3, very, very affordable in Leica terms. I've seen these on eBay averaging around £200, so you can probably find them for $250 US, which really surprised me. Parallax corrected, it gives you 35mm and 50mm frame lines, and the bonus magnified rangefinder if you want to use longer lenses. You've got faster film loading than Leica M cameras. You've got faster film advanced than Leica screw mount cameras. And yeah, it just feels really nicely made. The biggest con of this camera is if you're used to modern Leica M mount glass, you can't use modern, say, Voigtlander or Leica lenses on this camera because obviously it's screw mount. Talking in Voigtlander lenses, I have just received my delivery of the brand new Voigtlander Nocturne 35mm f1.5 together with a few other lenses. So full road test to come on that lens. If you're not yet subscribed, now's a great time to subscribe. If you want to see videos on the Fed 2 and Zorky 4, again subscribe because those videos will be coming very soon. If you're a fan of Canon rangefinder cameras, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, as always, please smash the like button. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, a huge thanks to my awesome patrons. I'll list some more videos to watch next.